Gracious Lord, may the words of my mouth, the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Now, this morning's gospel scripture is one of my favorites. The text from the Gospel of John is not about the meek and the mild Jesus. It's not about the lovey-dovey Jesus. This is the angry, fed-up Jesus. And at the beginning of his ministry in the Gospel of John, he kicks it off with a bang. People can say that he has lost his mind. He is flipping tables and he is flipping out. Now, Jesus' actions in the Gospel of John are out of place. Because if you read in the Synoptic Gospels and the Gospels of Mark, Luke, and John, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Jesus attacks the temple structure at the end of his ministry, on his way to the cross. But in the Gospel of John, Jesus is working it at the beginning. Jesus begins his ministry in conflict with the authorities. But what underlines this conflict is misunderstanding. In Jesus' destructive acts, they're not about the economics. It's not about the selling in the temple. It is Jesus challenging the whole system. It is Jesus challenging their whole world. It is Jesus shattering everything they know and everything that they think is important. See, Jesus is shifting everything away from what they used to do. See, the past isn't prologue in this. This is a whole new story. And in the gospel narrative, we see a new dimension of being that is not dependent on the temporal and the transactional, but on something that is eternal and fraternal. So as the people in the temple are asking Jesus, why is he doing what he is doing? They are flipping out about the wrong things. Now, this preacher, professor, and theologian, his name is Tony Campolo. He would open up sermons with this line: I have 3 things to say. First, while you were sleeping last night, 30,000 kids died of starvation and disease related to malnutrition. Second, most of you don't give an S, the S word. What's worse is that you're more upset, in fact, that I said the S word than the fact that 30,000 kids died last night. The students of Sloan Douglas High School have been flipping out about gun control. These students, which have every right to do so, have gone through a trauma it is imaginable. It's imaginable because it's happened every day, because people have been saying this for the past 30 years. Everything the children who were students of Sloan Douglas High School have been said by the Black Lives Matter movement, and were said 30 years ago in the rap music of the musicians in the early 1990s. But 30 years ago, people were flipping out again about the wrong things. You see, the gangster rap was used by the majority culture to demonize my generation as degenerate, immoral, and devoid of any redeemable qualities. And gangster rap was used by our people in the name of respectability politics to claim that that's why we ain't making progress as a people. See, we were flipping out, folks have been flipping out about the wrong things. They were flipping out about baggy pants. Why you got your pants so low? They're flipping out about the violence. Well, you're just a violent culture. Why y'all always talking about that violent stuff? They're flipping about the N-word. flipping out about the wrong things. The same people who flipped out about Ice Cube and all these other people never listened to the reality that they were speaking about. Because, again, they flipped out about this music, but they didn't flip out about Flip Wilson. They didn't flip out about Red Fox or Richard Pryor. But this time and that time, that was the time to flip out about stuff. So now, as these young men that I was talking about from 30 years ago, Ice Cube, before he was a star of television movies, and Dr. Dre, before he was worth $700 million, when they were in the group called NWA, they would say the words they said 30 years ago. A young N got bad because I'm brown, and not the other color, so the police think they have the authority to kill a minority. Everyone was flipping out about that language. And if I said the word, people be flipping out right now. You don't say that, Pastor. But the reality of that language is that that song was released on August 9th, 1988. Ice Cube said in 1988, as I translate his language into a more palatable form, I have a problem with the police because I am African American. And I believe that the police officers believe that they have the right to shoot me because of my color. Who is more important? And who is worth conversation? See, I wish that C. Dolores Tucker and the Reverend Calvin Butts back in 1990 had listened to the music that came out instead of steamrolling those records and talking about how they were so divisive. See, because when violence entered into inter-city schools, it became a problem to be managed, not discussed. And when the gangsters in the hood were supposedly outgunning the police, the Congress in 1994 signed the federal assault weapons ban because the gangsters were shooting the cops. But Pastor, you're saying, but Pastor, Dr. King did not march for your right to use the N-word and wear baggy pants. Hey, let me tell you something. Let me ask you a question. What happened to Dr. King? Oh yeah, he got shot by a rifle. Hello. We're flipping out about the wrong things at the wrong time and not flipping about the right things. Do we get the whole dynamic there? See, because what we see is that people flipping out about the wrong things in the present happens because we have missed the boat in the past tense. We missed the point. We missed the whole idea that we're in the same boat to begin with. See, in the Gospels, as we listen to the Gospel reading this morning, the disciples were listening to Jesus in the past tense only to understand later what was happening and why. And we have become a past tense church. So Calvin Butts, the pastor of Abyssinian Baptist Church, flipped out on the negativity of gangster rap leaders in the early 90s. But instead of flipping out about the negative things in the music that made black neighborhoods so unappealing, what if he had worried about the conditions that created the music to begin with? Have you been to Harlem lately? The same guy who signed the 1994 assault weapons ban, Bill Clinton, his office is there. And guess who ain't there? Poor people of color. Those laws passed in the 1980s and 1990s to clean up the streets just did that. And guess what the trash was that got cleaned up? They ain't talking about the crack cocaine, because cocaine's still there. It's just the white folks are sniffing it, and we in jail. So if you go to Harlem in New York City, or better yet, take it to my streets. If you go to Cabrini Green in Chicago, or if you try to go to the Magnolia or St. Bernard projects in New Orleans, you won't see any people wearing baggy jeans because they're not there. Those neighborhoods are not there. They are gone. There is no Cabrini Green. It's Stewart Park now. And the only way you will ever see Cabrini Green again is if you turn on Good Times or decide to watch Cooley High. Those neighborhoods have been gentrified. We are gone. We aren't there. We are in the criminal justice system. And millions are missing. That's the thing. Millions are missing. Because we got focused on the superficial. The Sentencing Project, which is a project which you can look online, it's a great project. They do all statistics around the criminal justice system. They say, this is from 2013, that 1 in every 10 black men in their 30s are in prison or in jail on any given day. Remember what I said. The NWA song I talked about came out 30 years ago in August. So what if we as a community are worried about the well-being of our kids than the music they listen to? What if the community lived in the present tense? You see, we have to become a present tense church. We don't have time anymore to catch stuff on the flip side anymore. Because our time has run out. If you're going to flip out about things, we need to start flipping out about the right things at the right time.
Amen.
We have to pay attention now to what people are saying, to what our community is saying. We need to pay attention now or pay for it later. We have to commit and connect to our communities just as much as we claim that we want to connect to God. Because how are you going to love God but not love God's people?
Amen.
That means putting in time with God's people. That means putting in time in our community beyond Sunday morning. That means spending time listening to their concerns. That means sharing in their common lot, like Jesus did. It is time to start flipping out. Flipping out about the right things. God bless you this morning. Amen.